Again. So we make this leap from relatively simple categories to a category that's much, much, much more complicated, where we've been purifying attachment and delusion with the category of the difficult person where we arrive today. We purify ill will. Exactly. Yeah. We purify ill will, irritation, anger, resentment, any flavor of having a personal reaction about what somebody has done to harm us. So this category is much more complicated and difficult than some of the others. So that's why we come to it later rather than right away. And why, when we begin this category, even if we've done it a lot in the past, we always start with somebody relatively easy. So that looks like somebody we're mildly irritated by. So starting with this category with somebody that we are mildly reactive about, but not strongly reactive about. So do not choose your neighbor who you're having a conflict with. Don't choose a spouse or a family member you're having a conflict with, or a child you're having a conflict with. Don't choose a political figure who scares you because they seem malevolent and dangerous. Just somebody who mildly bothers you. So in the context of retreat, often it's somebody who maybe they do something in the meditation hall that's annoying. And even that can be too difficult, actually. Maybe we don't like their socks. Something really trivial. Through the day, you can graduate to more difficult people if the easy ones are easy. And in the context of a retreat like we're doing here, where a lot of you are doing a city retreat, you're working, you're with family, I would say do not go to the really difficult people in work or family situations at all in this category. So in the context of this retreat, where we're busy, maybe we're with family or work, we're doing a city retreat, not to use, even later in this category, not to go to family or colleagues who are difficult. Leave these really difficult people for all people because they're already in your face. We say in English, they're right here. So you don't want to add to that. The thought of them may come up, but just say later, let them be in the background. And let them be way in the background, across the street or on the other side of town. So stay this morning in the sitting this morning with an easy person. And the purification that happens with this category is so profound because, as one of you has already said this morning, very small things can have a big impact on the mind. The more difficult things have a bigger impact on the mind and heart. So to purify these places of challenge, these knots, these places where the mind is all kind of bound up, this is really profound. And the challenge of this is emphasized by all the chants we've been doing and in the suttas over and over again. Without hostility and without ill will, this phrase, even in the context of talking about the Brahma Viharas, it emphasizes without hostility, without ill will. This is the purity of metta. And so this indicates, at least to me, the fact that it's so emphasized indicates that it can come up all the time, very easily. And to really emphasize the importance of freedom from this. And with this category of difficult people, often they're people who have harmed us. And we as human beings have a tendency, if somebody harms us, to want to harm them back. And the Buddha really hammered this point, that to really take in his teachings of metta. If somebody harms you by thought or by deed, radiate metta without ill will is the only way forward. And the Buddha knew very well how things can escalate. The texts are full of stories of either fights amongst monastics, arguments amongst monastics, or wars amongst kings that started with something small. We get these, somebody harms somebody else, and then it gets, they respond with ill will, and then it escalates into warfare. And so the Buddha was very clear about this. This is very common. So he said very clearly, hatred never ceases by hatred. So if somebody says something horrible to you, saying something horrible back only makes it worse. And it goes without saying, action is even worse in terms of escalation. So hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone. This is an eternal law. This is a verse by the Buddha. This does not make us passive. It makes us strong. It's harder, actually, not to retaliate. It takes more balance. It takes more maturity. It takes more resilience. And it takes not holding anything that people say about us or do towards us as a personal, anything personal, not hanging on to the ego reaction. So this takes a lot of letting go, just simple letting go. So if you have reactivity arising, just whenever you notice it, just feel it briefly and go right back to the phrase. That's the practice regardless, but it's really important in this category. And one phrase, many of you use it already, but one phrase I want to emphasize that's very useful in this category is no matter what or anyway. So you can say your phrase and add either of those to the end of the phrase. May I be at ease anyway. This is a way of acknowledging the reactivity without getting stuck in it. So taking a moment right now before we start to sit to bring somebody to mind, or somebody will come to mind. It's nothing you need to do. Choosing a difficult person. And as we did yesterday, we will practice in silence. Yesterday, choose your own appropriate way of entering this category. So you can enter it directly, just start with the difficult person, or you can go more gradually by starting with yourself and then going to an easier person, 5 minutes maybe for each, and then beginning with the difficult person. And if you find you're really getting extremely reactive, don't feel you need to keep going with this category. Go back to some other person or category that's easier. So please get comfortable. When you're ready, closing your eyes and beginning to radiate moment to moment to moment, loving kindness for either an easy category or this difficult person at the beginning. And then moment to moment to moment, inclining the heart to kindness, to tender benevolence. Moment to moment, no matter what. So coming to an end of the sitting. So the Buddha spoke so beautifully about the liberation of mind by loving kindness. He spoke really clearly about what to do about ill will. Here's what he said. What is the denourishment that prevents unarisen ill will from arising? Sorry, Donatella, this is complicated.
Okay. No, also, I think I lost the beginning because you were frozen. So can you just say it again?
Okay. What is the denourishment? unarisen ill will from arising, and prevents arisen ill will from increasing and expanding. So in other words, how do you starve latent ill will and keep ill will that's arisen from spreading?
Mhm.
And he says, frequently giving careful attention to the liberation of mind through loving kindness is what does this. And you think, oh, great, that doesn't tell me anything. So what's packed into that very short sentence it's a number of things. So first, to learn the loving kindness practice. And it says in the text, learning the loving kindness object. So learning the loving kindness object is polishing the ability to connect with another person and really becoming familiar with the loving kindness itself. So that's the first thing. The second thing is having a devoted loving kindness practice. So becoming familiar with metta as an experience, becoming familiar with the practice, and then becoming devoted to that practice. So those are the first two things that we're doing all the time. So this liberation of mind through loving kindness, that is concentration, is developed naturally as we practice and as we become more and more familiar with the practice. So that the more capable we are of connecting with it, the more quickly we can access that connection. So we don't need hours of quiet sitting to access the concentration of metta once we have skill in the practice. This is why that devoted practice is important, and that continuity, because it's a skill that comes with time. And then very briefly, and I'll talk about this more tomorrow, but very briefly, there are other things that are supportive. So reflecting on kamma is the third thing he talks about. So understanding that what we think, what we say, what we do has consequences internally and externally. And so the question we can ask ourselves is, do I really want to cultivate what's about to come out of my mouth? I mean, we may want to say it, but do we really want to cultivate that? Okay, we may want to cultivate it momentarily, but do we really want to cultivate that in the long term? I mean, it may feel good in the short term to, but in the long term, that's just cultivating ill will. And we don't want to do that. And the other things are good friendship and suitable talk. So I'll speak more about this tomorrow because time is short. But this
Suitable talk,
requires
sorry, suitable talk. I'm not sure I said it correctly.
Basically speaking about things that are useful.
Okay.
And aligned with metta.
Thank you.
I'll have more to say about all that tomorrow, but just to give you the context, this is how we develop liberation of mind through loving kindness, and how we starve the hindrance of ill will, and how we arrive at that really strong abiding place that is metta as a Brahmavihara. So this is the royal road that leads there. So moment to moment to moment, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Now you just incline to metta, and that's what gets us there. Bringing in this devotion and using the fact that we're all here together as support. So today, the practice continues with this same category. If you feel comfortable here, if it's just causing the mind to boil with ill will and hindrances, don't push it and go to a category that's easier. Staying with this easy, difficult person this morning, and then if it's going okay, slowly trying a slightly more difficult person. So really connecting with common humanity. And difficult people are just like us. And we, in fact, may be difficult people for somebody else. So how do we want to be related to? How do we want to relate to others? And really playing with this category, not taking it too seriously. Really playing with this category, not taking it too heavily, too seriously. Taking it as an experiment. See what happens. So thank you for your practice. And we're out of time for questions today. Please hold them for tomorrow. And really just keep inclining to metta. It's so simple. So I want to close very shortly with the Burmese Brahma Viharas and the sharing of merit.